Aditya, come here. Now look at the Antutu scores here. This is the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus. And this is the Realme 12 Pro Plus. And now, look at these Antutu scores. Now this is the POCO F6. And this is the Realme GT 60. Now, isn't this crazy? Because these are the same brands, but with different phones and such drastic difference in performance scores in the same price range. Now, there has to be some catch. That's the first thought that comes to our mind, right? Now, I've been using the POCO F6 for over a week. In fact, the entire office, actually, we have a bunch of folks who've been using it. We also have the black variant out here. We've been using this for a week now, and I definitely do have some thoughts. Also, don't worry, I'm going to tell you if the Realme GT 60 is a better option. Although I do feel bad for Realme because they could hold on to the hype only for a day. Anyway, if you're here for the first time, I'm Arshad. You're watching Trakin Tech English, your destination for detailed, incisive gadget reviews. Now, you know what? The 8S Gen 3 inside the POCO F6 and the 7 Plus Gen 3 inside the Realme GT 60. Now, these are based on the same core architecture. The difference is that the 8S Gen 3 has a slightly higher clock speed. It also has a much more powerful GPU with support for ray tracing, and you also get the more superior Snapdragon X70 modem compared to X63 on the 7 Plus Gen 3. Now, apart from the chip itself, both these phones also have LPDDR5X RAM type and UFS 4.0 storage. So the storage read-write speeds are really good. You can see that on your screen. But let it be known that the GT60's base variant, which is a 128GB variant, comes with UFS 3.1 storage and not UFS 4.0. The base variant on the F6 comes with UFS 4.0 because it has 256GB, so you don't have to worry about that. Now, apart from the higher Antutu scores, you also get higher Geekbench scores on the POCO F6. Plus, since you have support for ray tracing, we ran the Solar Bay test and we got a fairly decent about 20 FPS in the test. But of course, Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 phones will perform better. In fact, the 8S Gen 3 inside the F6 actually offered better CPU and GPU stability. So in our 40-thread 30-minute run, the CPU stability was higher than the 7 Plus Gen 3 toting Realme GT 60. And you get far better GPU stability on 3D Mark wireless stress test as well. In fact, when I played Genshin Impact at highest graphics and 60 frames a second, Realme did get hotter than POCO. Anyway, in that Genshin Impact test, we also got higher average frame rates on POCO compared to Realme. That was understood. So technically, the 8S Gen 3 inside the POCO F6 offers better raw performance, but Realme shouldn't have to worry too much about it because the delta is not too much. Although I do worry about the fact that only 5 to 10% of the people who are watching our videos subscribe to our channel. It'd be awesome if you guys subscribed and supported our work and join us in our journey of reaching 1 million subscribers by the end of 2024. Fingers crossed. Now, I also tested Airtel and Jio on both these phones and it works absolutely fine. The call quality through the earpiece is pretty good too. And both these phones also support voice over NR. But technically, POCO offers 15 5G band support as opposed to 9 on the Realme, so it's better. With respect to the other network connectivity features, you get Wi-Fi 6, NFC and Bluetooth 5.4 on both the phones. So, the battery life on both these phones is actually not as great as I expected it to be. On Realme, I told you guys that I got about 6 hours of screen on time, but POCO gives me only about 5 hours of screen on time on an average. Now, this could also be because Realme has a larger 5500 mAh battery compared to 5000 mAh on POCO, but this year I've tested phones with great battery life. That's not really the case with these two phones. It's good, but it's not great. I say it's good because it's still an all-day battery life for POCO. Realme might last you slightly longer. And Realme also tops up faster. You get a 120-watt charger inside the box, and it charges the phone from 0 to 100 in about 24-25 minutes. POCO gives you a 120-watt charger in the box, but only supports 90-watt charging speeds. Now, you have to switch on the boost charge from the settings app and, switch off your screen so that you get the fastest 90-watt charging speeds too. And if you do that, then you can expect it to charge from 0 to 100 in about 30-35 minutes. Now, the good thing on both these phones is that they do support USB PD charging, so you can actually use a USB PD supported charger and charge using whatever fast charging protocols are available over there. Now, the flat display on POCO is actually better than the curved display on Realme GT 60, primarily because, these are gaming specific phones or performance oriented phones, and flat displays are better for gaming. Anyway, Realme has a larger 6.78-inch panel compared to 6.67 on POCO, but both of these are 1.5K resolution OLED panels. Now, there are a few advantages that Realme's display has over POCO's. Firstly, you get Corning Gorilla Glass Victus 2 as opposed to Corning Gorilla Glass Victus. Now, this is not too much of a big deal, but technically it's the newer version. But what is a huge deal is the fact that Realme actually uses LTPO technology, which means that Realme's display can refresh down to 1 Hz, which is also possibly the reason why you get better battery life on Realme compared to POCO. I also noticed that the display color tuning was slightly more neutral in Realme with, great skin tones as opposed to POCO. Even the HDR tuning has a smoother transition from the highlights to the shadows. It is good on POCO, but it's better on Realme. But POCO has one feature that matters to me a lot, and that is HDR support, or actually Dolby Vision support on Netflix, which is absent on Realme. That said, Realme's panel is definitely brighter whether you use it outdoors or indoors. Now, both these displays also have an in-display fingerprint scanner, and honestly, there's nothing telling the two apart. But with the always-on display on POCO, I really like how the fingerprint scanner transitions from the always-on black panel to the lock screen. It's very nicely done. Now, both these phones also have a proper X-axis linear motor, so the haptic feedback is actually pretty good. In fact, you get system-level vibration feedback tuning, for example, when you're reducing the volume or increasing the volume. It's really nice. But what I noticed is, interestingly and surprisingly, is that POCO's haptic feedback tuning is actually tighter than Realme's, which actually does have O haptics. On the audio side of things, if you're an audiophile, you can use a DAC with both these phones. It supports hi-res, so there's no problem at all over there. And if you're somebody who uses truly wireless earbuds or headphones with LHDC and LDAC codec support, then both these phones support that too, no problem there. POCO does have the louder sounding, richer sounding, cleaner sounding, spatial sounding speakers though, compared to Realme. Take a listen to the difference in sound quality for yourself and let me know what you guys think. So my takeaway here is that Realme definitely is technically superior, but for things that matter, for example, better speaker quality or support for Dolby Vision in Netflix, POCO actually gets that right. The brand understands multimedia enthusiasts like me, actually. Now, HyperOS based on Android 14 is what is running on POCO, and the brand also makes a promise of 3 years of software updates and 4 years of security updates. Realme UI 5 based on Android 14 is what is running on Realme, and this brand also promises 3 years of software updates and 4 years of security updates. With respect to animations, both these phones have really smooth animations. I quite like it actually. Although HyperOS does have more features. For example, both these phones have the dynamic island ripoff, but the lock screen customization on HyperOS has been done really well. You also get AI specific features when you're using the image editor. You basically can erase objects. You can also do image expansion. That's actually the first time that I've used it on a phone in India actually. In fact, that sky editor feature, that's there in full flow out here, and you can just change it to whatever degree you want it to. And Xiaomi was technically the first one to do it. While Realme might not have as many features and all of Realme's AI features are coming really soon, it does have a cleaner software experience. It has fewer third-party installs, unlike POCO, which has a lot of bloatware apps, including 2 bubble shooter games, like 2 versions of it, which is crazy. Plus, there are more dark patterns on POCO, and there is that super intrusive branch matrix that pops up every single time you try to open the app drawer. Of course, you can cancel it. Remember to do that. Now, on both the phones, you can uninstall all the third-party apps, which is a good thing. And I'm guessing this is their way of ensuring that the hardware cost can be subsidized to some extent. Overall, Realme UI is the cleaner software experience, where POCO is the more feature-rich software experience. Let me set expectations straight from the get-go when I'm going to be talking about the cameras. Don't expect them to be great on these performance-oriented phones. Anyway, I did notice that POCO F6 Sony IMX882 captures more natural details and sharper textures compared to the Sony Lydia 600 used by the Realme GT60, which does have some artificial over-sharpening. Although on the POCO, the color science is completely off. Realme is not entirely accurate either, but at least it's close to accurate, so it's better. But when it comes to color science consistency between the primary and the ultrawide, the 2 cameras that you get on both these phones, it's actually really bad on both. HDR tuning is actually also better on Realme. It doesn't flatten the image out like POCO has done here, and the bloom is also well under control, especially when you look at the corners of the leaves out here. I actually do like a little bit of dynamics in the shadows, which is what is missing in POCO. Realme skin tones when you're shooting friends and family are warm and really nice to look at. They're pretty close to neutral, not entirely neutral, but pretty close to it. POCO, on the other hand, does get the skin tones wrong many times, and it's a very inconsistent shooter as well. Plus, Realme also offers a far superior portrait algorithm. The edge cutout is better, the bokeh drop-off is cleaner and looks more natural compared to POCO. In fact, with Realme, you can also shoot 2x portraits, which is not possible on POCO. Now, low light on both these phones is not that great considering they are superior ISPs. I expected it to be better, but it's not. But between these two phones though, I think Realme's low light performance is better and it's a fair and square win. There is nothing to, debate here. Now, there's also the 8MP ultra wide on both these phones. It performs like most 8MP ultra wides. They look okay in daylight. Low light shots are not that great. For all the problems that I noticed with the POCO's primary camera, the selfie camera performance is actually better in my opinion. The selfie pictures don't look as detailed or are not as sharp as Realme's. What POCO gets right are the skin tones. They're closer to neutral. In fact, even the color of my t-shirt out here is better. Realme has this very contrast heavy look, which I'm not really a fan of. It's very unnatural. Now, portrait selfies and HDR selfies are very closely fought between the two. There's not much separating the two, as you can see for yourself. Now, both these phones also offer 4K 60 FPS video recording using the primary camera on the rear. POCO's video recording quality is better because you get more details because of that higher bitrate video recording. In fact, you also get higher bitrate audio recording. In fact, even the stabilization is better than Realme.
So now we're recording a video at 4K 60 FPS on both the phones, and I'm walking with the phones right now. So now we're recording a video at 4K 60 FPS on both the phones, and I'm walking with the phones right now.
Using the ultra wide, you can shoot 1080p 30 FPS on both, and it's pretty average on both. But the selfie camera videos on Realme are better because you get 4K 30 FPS. POCO does do 1080p 60 FPS, so you get higher frame rates, but 4K is more resolution and you do get better details, and the quality of video also looks better. So overall, when it comes to camera performance between these two non-camera phones, I think Realme wins. Now, I saved the design conversation for the end because Realme and POCO have to keep things basic here so that they can bring the cost down, right? Like I said, both look very basic actually. Now, Realme does try to liven things up by giving you that glass finish with that mirror reflective surface or that band on top, but it's an extreme fingerprint magnet and that's a huge problem. Plus, the camera rings on these two phones might want to make you believe that the camera performance is going to be fantastic. But we know the truth. It's a bit of a facade, yes. Now, both these phones are made entirely of plastic, whether it's the pack or the frame, and therefore it keeps the weight in check, right? But in terms of in-hand comfort, POCO is better, and that's because it's a smaller phone. It also uses a smaller battery, and it's also not as wide as Realme, and Realme does tend to dig into the palms when you're holding it. This is more comfortable. Now, as for the functional advantages on both these phones, you get IP65 rating on Realme, whereas POCO gives you IP64 rating. You get an infrared blaster on both, by the way, which is nice, but you do not get a headphone jack or a memory card slot. And the Type-C ports at the bottom, yeah, it's 2.0 and not USB-C 3.1, which should have been the case considering the fact that you get LPDDR5X RAM type, UFS 4.0 storage, such good processors. This is a bit of a cost-cutting measure. So, the conclusion is clear. Basically, we are back to the pre-COVID era where smartphones used to be priced aggressively and consumers had it good. It is coming back in 2024. Like I had mentioned, a link to that short video should pop up right now. Anyway, between these two phones, the POCO F6 offers better raw performance and better multimedia experience. Realme, on the other hand, quite literally has the slightly better battery life and of course, camera experience. If you want a slightly better one, then Realme does it better. So which one of these two phones would you pick? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you have any specific use cases, let me know that as well so we can help you out. Alright, I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, keep tracking and stay safe.